Welcome to Conversations with CASA, a monthly blog examining issues and trends in the child welfare system. My name is Vicki Spriggs, and I'm your host. I'm also the CEO of Texas CASA, and we're filming on location in our offices. Today's guest is Kristene Blackstone. Kristene has been the Associate Commissioner of Child Protective Services since May 1st of 2016. Overseeing one of the largest child protective services programs in the nation with more than 8,000 employees. Kristene has almost 25 years of public experience working with children and families, 17 of those years of experience with child protective services, where she started out as a caseworker and has held positions as CPS supervisor, program director, and regional administrator. So basically, you worked your way from the bottom to the top. Is that fair to say?
Pretty much.
Super. Thank you for being with us today, Kristene.
Certainly, it's my pleasure.
So, Kristene, you've been here 2 years now in this capacity as
right.
Associate Commissioner. And there's been a lot going on in those 2 years. So can you tell me what you think your greatest accomplishments have been, or the overall department's agency's greatest accomplishments have been in the last 2 years?
Well, yes,
and challenges, if you want to talk about those too.
Of course, and there are still challenges ahead, and every day. But we've had a really busy 2 years, and it's been a time of great change at the department. Commissioner Whitman and I both started on our jobs on May 1st, and came in and kind of got the lay of the land and went to work. But one of the things that I think I'm most proud of that our team has accomplished in the past 2 years is a real change in culture at the agency. When Commissioner Whitman and I came in, we decided to take a look at all the regional leadership across the state. A number of changes were made, and we kind of regrouped with a new team of regional leadership and started looking at the way the culture was in the agency, the way promotions were taking place, the way people were held accountable, what was going on with morale, and all of those things. We did a lot of work specifically with our supervisors, looking at the way we were promoting people, specifically making sure that we were getting the right people. We instituted a competency exam so that we could make sure that anyone that was getting promoted had the level of knowledge and skill that we were looking for in that important role as a supervisor. In addition to that, we changed the training for both caseworkers and supervisors to give people more hands-on experiences so that we would know if they were a good match. They would know if it was a good job for them. With the supervisors, we specifically freed them up, giving them time to finish off their caseload as a caseworker, and then spending time with a mentor supervisor before they actually take on a unit. So really looking at what was happening with our workforce. During that time, we also instituted a series of awards to recognize good behavior, recognize high performance and excellence, and we spent a lot of time training our management teams on the use of data and making sure that we were using data to drive our performance. So all of those things together, in addition with the additional staff that the legislature and Office of the Governor gave us right before the session started, and pay raises for our frontline staff, really all have come together to create an environment where we can be more successful with children and families. Our turnover has dramatically reduced. Caseloads are down. We are making face-to-face, timely investigations on a regular basis, and outcomes for children and families look better. We're reducing the time to permanency. More kids who have been in the system longer, like kids that have been in our system for more than 2 years, we're moving more of those children towards permanent outcomes. So I really feel like changing the culture, creating an atmosphere of accountability and expectations for excellence, we've gone a long way.
It's really exciting that you started by looking, if you will, if you're using a human body, you started with the skeleton and then built out to the flesh, if you will.
Right. I really feel like with the caseload as high as they were, and the morale as bad as it was, and training not really sufficient to meet our frontline staff needs, that taking care of all of those things ultimately would result in better practices that would serve families better.
Super.
So, yeah.
Excellent. So there is an old African American spiritual that says, the chorus line is, we're a long way from where we've been, but we've got to keep moving. Yes. So if you were to use that as a framework for this next question, right, where do you see things going, and what are the challenges ahead, and what do you want to see accomplished in the next 3 years?
Right. So I do feel like we've come a long way, and where you have a stable workforce, and we have a lot of promising initiatives that we're rolling out from the last legislative session. The session, we had 66 bills that were related to CPS that we're busy
Wow.
implementing, but a lot of them really get to some core quality practice issues. There's things like getting children in to have medicals within the first 3 days they're in care, so that we can ensure that if we are removing a child from their parents, that we know what their needs are. There's practices associated to the legal court cases to try and move cases more effectively through the system. But the really big monumental changes are associated with community-based care. And I think, we know that capacity has been an issue for our system, having the right capacity when children have to be removed from their parents. And we've done a good job at increasing the number of kids that are going with relatives. We're up to about 46% of children in foster care with relatives now. And I still think we'll build on that here in the coming years. But what we really need to do is improve the types of capacity that we have, making sure that it's the right capacity in the right place for our kiddos. Last year we completed a needs assessment, which really looked at what children are we having to place further away from their communities, and what children are we able to keep in our communities, so that we could inform communities across the state about the needs. So that was our first needs assessment, and we've been busy refining it all year long, listening to the community, listening to our provider networks specifically, to find out what more information they could use that will help them develop homes for children nearer to their families. And so this year we will roll out that needs assessment in May, and then we did not do this last year, but we will partner with some of our residential providers, leaders in their communities, to develop strategic plans specifically dedicated to building the right kind of capacity. So that's one aspect that I think we've made progress. We've brought a lot of capacity on, but now we just really need to keep pushing ourselves to get kids closer to home. We know with community-based care, that's the focus of it. Community-based care now includes case management. So that's a big transformative effort. We are currently in one catchment area in the north part of the state, up near Fort Worth, 7 counties. We're moving next into Wichita Falls and then into Bexar County. And then we'll announce 2 more catchment areas. But it's a phased approach. We start off with placement services and services to kids, and then once we can see readiness, we'll start transitioning case management. But by the time those 5 areas go through kind of that whole phased approach, 50% of the cases of children in care will be handled by local community providers. And so what we really hope to do is for the community to own the cases, for the community to provide the system to wrap around these families and these kids so that we can have successful outcomes and drive improvement.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
How do you, I would imagine, if I'm working for Child Protective Services and I know that we're moving into communities and
Right.
the providers handling case management, that there might be some apprehension on the workforce. How do you manage that transition?
Right. I think we're just starting to get into recognizing fully the challenges. We all know there's going to be challenges with it, but how we're going to communicate with our workforce, how we make sure that they have all the information they need about the progression of events that will come. Senate Bill 11 does call for our staff to have hiring priority by any vendor who we contract with to provide those services. And we know we just recently launched the FBSS, Family-Based Safety Services pilot out in El Paso, where we transitioned case management services. And it was really all about communicating what the options were to staff, making sure they were aware of the timeline every step of the way, letting them meet the vendor once we had a contract and hear about the type of employment opportunities he would be offering, and kind of proceeding in that fashion. I think it's just about being transparent and making sure people understand fully the steps that will go in. It's a little bit lengthy process. I mean, we've been engaged up in Fort Worth in that kind of stage one for a couple of years, and we're moving towards handing over case management. So people will have plenty of time to evaluate their options and make decisions that they may need to make.
Super.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about the notion of communities, again, owning and being responsible and stepping up into their ownership of children from their communities. How do you work with the provider to ensure that the services the community needs are available?
Right. Well, we know, and Texas is a big state, and there's from very rural to very urban, and so there's a continuum of services out there. I think we are starting to kind of get the lay of the land just across the state. We're doing a survey next week with not just providers that we contract with, but providers that are out there providing community services in that space, whether or not we contract with them or not. So that's one step that we're taking. But the other thing that we've really been working on these last couple of years is our engagement with our faith communities so that they are aware of the needs of the communities and where they feel like they have skills, passion, capacity to step in and help out, that we engage them and bring them to the table with us. And so I think it's a matter for each individual community of figuring out, what's there or not. But we're doing a survey in Houston. People are getting together to try to assess their own readiness for that. And I think that's starting to happen across the state, that the bill itself, with the concept of community-based care as it is, has really motivated people to start coming together and figuring out what are our gaps, where are we in our ability to provide these services. So,
that's exciting.
It is.
So I'm going to flip the script for a second, because you, at a time when women's empowerment is really coming to the forefront now, and you're heading up one of the largest child protective services systems in the nation, what are your special challenges?
Wow.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw that, but it's an opportunity.
Yes, I mean, so, if I think about it, I think really the special challenge with anyone that works in child welfare is finding that life-work balance, right? I think that's probably number one, because the job's never done. You always want to do it better. There's always more to do. And you have a huge sense of responsibility to do it right. But you also have obligations and to your family and want to spend time with your loved ones. So it's just finding that balance, I think, has probably been the biggest challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But I'm lucky. I have a very supportive husband who likes to cook, so.
Very important. That's good. Super.
Yeah.
So, looking down the road, session's coming up. Again, I say coming up, and it's 9 months away, but it feels like tomorrow.
Yes.
Any particular pieces of legislation or any particular legislative actions you would like to see happen?
Well, we just had one of our first interim hearings, and I was especially interested that youth aging out of care and transitional living were topics for that hearing. And I think that's a place where we work really hard and do a lot of good work, but I'm always interested in, people's ideas about how to better serve that population. It's a small population of the foster care population, but a particularly important one. So I think it'll be an exciting opportunity to look at what we can do better for those youth, and that's something I'm very keen on hearing people's ideas and seeing what the legislature's interested in doing. Beyond that, I think we'll have a big focus on substance abuse. treatment for our families. And I think in Texas it's a challenge. Our parents are a priority population, so we can get services for them, but we're a big state, and are all the services where they need to be? And so I think that'll be a great conversation to watch as we move forward.
A great conversation and a great challenge to meet. Not that you all have to meet it, the state has to meet it, whether it's working with colleges and universities to work with the School of Social Workers to produce more substance abuse counselors, or however the state resources come together, resources being minds, come together to start looking at creative solutions to address this issue. We know that historically, as you said, some communities, generally the urban communities, have therapists and counselors available, and even then, not at the level that are needed. So that's a challenge that it's going to be interesting to watch, because it's becoming more and more of an issue. And I guess how we respond to that issue is going to be critical.
Right, I think it is. And I think, children and families are especially vulnerable and impacted by this issue. And so whatever the state does will impact children who intersect with families that intersect with the child welfare system. So
exactly.
Yeah, great.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to say thank you to you and to all the volunteers out there who serve our children and families across the state. You're an excellent partner and a meaningful voice in the conversation.
Thank you. And thank you for the access and the responsiveness and the relationship that you and I have, but especially when something comes up and I can take it from a local program and say, Kristene, can you look into this and know that it's handled? Thank you for that as well.
Certainly.
And then thank you for your care and compassion as it relates to the children and families that we are all concerned about. Yeah. So thank you for joining us today as well.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of Conversations with CASA. We'll see you next time.